Hey there, Alex here. The Honor series has always been about providing great value for money, packing in top-end specifications into a package that is reasonably priced. The Honor 10 takes that to the next level. At just 579 Singapore dollars, it's half the price of the Samsung Galaxy S9 and around $300 cheaper than its bigger brother, the Huawei P20. It's actually even cheaper than some mid-range devices in the market. To give you a sense of why that is so impressive, we have to take a closer look at the phone. Let's start by talking about what the Honor 10 is packing. Looking at its specifications, this is undoubtedly a flagship level hardware, high-end processor, an ample amount of storage and RAM. There are a few minor compromises of course, which I'll talk about later, but nothing major. Even the design of the phone looks and feels like a flagship device. It's a blend of glass and metal like pretty much every other phone in the market right now, but with a twist. If you get one of the more unique color options like this Phantom Blue variant, you get an iridescent purple sheen which looks really nice. The phone feels remarkably well built with tight tolerances and tactile buttons. You can even spot a few additional features like the IR blaster and a 3.5mm audio jack, both of which are not available on the Huawei P20. In day-to-day use, it feels as nice as most flagship devices too. Unlocking the phone is as easy as just picking it up and looking at it. Even in dim lighting conditions, it still works as long as I'm using a bright enough wallpaper, since the phone is just brightening up the screen to illuminate my face. If you don't want to be blinded by the display, there is an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor just below it. I did notice that it requires a little bit more effort to set up and it feels a bit slower at unlocking the phone, but it's a small price to pay considering the sensor works even if my fingers are a little wet. Once the screen is on, all I can say is that it's a top-notch display. Get it? Top-notch? Jokes aside, I personally don't mind it at all since it gives me a bit more screen to work with. But if you do, you can simply just turn it off. The screen itself looks pretty good to me despite being an LCD panel with Full HD Plus resolution. It has nice colors, decent contrast, and is bright enough outdoors. So the multimedia experience here is still excellent. It may not have stereo speakers, but the bottom firing speaker sounds pretty good. The Honor 10 handles everything I throw at it with ease, which is no surprise since it is using the same high-end chipset as the Huawei P20. Battery life has been pretty good as well, and I have no problems getting it to last a full day. I also like that they have included Huawei's supercharge technology on the phone, which gets me close to 50% of battery in just 30 minutes. Now let's talk about software experience. EMUI 8.1 brings with it tons of customization options and features. I really do mean tons of it. I can customize the way I navigate around the software, how I want the display to look, use 3 fingers to take a screenshot, one-handed mode, lock apps with sensitive information, run 2 WhatsApp accounts at the same time, and many more. EMUI can be a bit overwhelming initially, but if you're willing to take the time to tweak everything to your liking, like turn some of the features off, install a third-party launcher, and things like that, it can be a pretty nice experience still since the performance of the software is actually pretty good. I also noticed an improvement in reliability for EMUI 8.1 compared to when it just came out on the P20 series. There are a couple of things that I'm not a huge fan of, like the amount of bloat that comes pre-installed on the phone, a couple of minor bugs, and software updates are probably not going to be as frequent, but on the whole, I can say that it is a decent enough software experience. Finally, let's talk about the cameras. They are being branded as AI camera, which means that it is able to recognize subjects in the scene and automatically adjust the image processing. If you like more colorful images, this is going to make your life a lot easier since you don't have to edit the photos yourself. For me, I tend to prefer a more natural look, so I normally turn the AI processing off. The image processing trends towards a slightly higher contrast for punchier looking images, much like other Huawei devices. This is probably going to be a little subjective since we all have different preference for how we like our images to look. For me, I think it looks good. Since it lacks hardware stabilization, I did notice a bit more grain for low light shots, but for the most part, they still look pretty good. Also, the secondary monochrome camera is plenty of fun to play with as usual. I don't take much selfies, but the front camera looks good enough to me. It has a tendency to overexpose the shots a bit, so it would have been nice to be able to manually control the exposure. It has a portrait mode as well, which adds a background blur, and it actually doesn't look half bad. Video quality is pretty good too with nice details and vibrant colors, but the lack of hardware stabilization does show. It is lacking a few other features from the P20 as well, like the ultra slow motion feature and the incredible looking night mode. But given the price of the phone, it's not something that I can complain about. It is still a really good camera that punches way above its price point, and it's one that I've really enjoyed using. The Honor 10 is a flagship level phone with a mid-range pricing. It has a nice design, the hardware is excellent, and it does almost everything well enough. Other than a couple of compromises that I have already mentioned, the only other thing I can think of is just the lack of water resistance, which isn't a big deal considering its price. At 579 Singapore dollars, the Honor 10 is an easy recommendation to make. Thanks for watching my review of the Honor 10. If you have enjoyed it, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. Thanks again, and see you guys on the next one.